Okay, today I'm going to introduce how you can create a distributed practice study plan for your course. And to do this, I'm going to show you a form fillable Excel spreadsheet. So this is already set up for you to just be able to put in the topics that you've learned, and it will show you how to distribute your practice over the semester so that by the time you get to the exam study period, you will have studied everything and reviewed things, meaning that you'll be really ready to fine-tune your studying rather than just starting studying from scratch. It's set up in an Excel spreadsheet. The first page gives you some general information. So if you don't know what distributed practice is and why it's important, that's here. Or if you don't know what interleaving is and why that's important, there's a description here. And the first page also walks through step by step how to fill this out, but in this video I'll also introduce this. The bottom part of the spreadsheet here has a number of spaces. So I'm going to show you an example from one course, a course that I teach, EDD 101. But there's also a space for you to create a distributed practice plan for each of your other courses. And if you don't know how to use an Excel spreadsheet, if you click or right click or control click on the bottom of the tab, you can actually rename it. So you can put your actual course name in, and then it's easy to flip between courses. What's important in this planner is to know that the only place where you need to put any information is in this first column, column B. And so it's set up for you to go through your syllabus and your textbook week by week to fill in sort of the 5 bigger things that you really need to know. So you can think of these as packets of information that you really need to know for each course. They might be big questions that you need to answer or major concepts that you really need to understand and be able to work with. And then you can figure out the smaller details after that. But the point of this is to sort of figure out what are the big concepts from each week that I really need to master to do well in this course. And all you do is write them in. So I might put here concept 1, concept 2. And what you can see is that when you do that, it actually shows you week by week by week by week what you should study or review from week 1. So in week 1, it's the first time you're seeing the information, so that's what you study. But in week 2, you're learning some new information. And for week 2, this is set up that you don't need to go back to week 1. It's still quite fresh in your mind. But in week 3, when you're learning this information in this block, it's reminding you to go back and review or study the things that are in black and not the things that are in gray. And over time, you'll see if you follow week 1 that by the end of the semester, you will have studied and reviewed almost all the topics that are from week 1. So let me give you an example. This is set up for my course, and what I've done is we're in week 3 right now. So if you follow this spreadsheet, the columns for week 3 and the column and the row for week 3, you'll see these are the things that are new this week. These are the things that we are learning. And so a student who is in this class should be learning these materials and then also taking the opportunity to go back and review these things from earlier in the semester, the first week. Next week, in week 4, if you go across, we're going to be talking about task understanding and why it's important. And in that week, students in this class should be going back and reviewing these things that are in black. The gray things are just telling you that's part of the topic for that week, but they'll come back in review sessions later. And so by the end of the semester, students will have learned and reviewed multiple times everything in the class. So by the time you get to the study break, or the week or a few days before exams start, you'll have a list of all the topics, and you can go through and color code them based on your review. So you can say, this is a green item, I know it. This is a red item, I need to go back and review this particular activity. So the last thing is, what do you do if you can't do this for your whole course at the beginning of the semester? I would argue that it's worth taking time to try to do that using the syllabus and using the other resources such as a textbook that you have. But if you really can't do it, just fill in the weeks as you go, right? So we're in week 3, put in the big ideas from week 3. And then in week 4, add week 4. Right? What's important is the information that comes before the week, right? So in week 4, this is what I have to learn. But what's important is that I filled in the weeks ahead of me, so I also know what I have to go back and revisit or review. This isn't perfect in its timing or plan, but we tried to use the science of distributed practice and interleaved practice, and what the research shows about the timing of that kind of repetition and that going back to rework or relearn things to create a schedule that will put you in a great position to be ready at the end of the semester. So I hope this helps. Enjoy using it. Oh, one last thing. I did put in blue. You'll see from week 5 onwards, I put the items in blue, except for week 9. And that's because those are sort of big topics, but I feel like there's probably a little bit more detail that I could put in here. And blue is just a reminder for me that, okay, when we get to week 5, I'm going to fill this out in a little bit more detail.